Olivia Salazar-Winspear has joined us from Media Watch. Olivia, you're looking at what's getting a lot of reaction on social networks in particular. We're going to start with Brazil. We've seen a lot of reactions to the suspension of the now a former Brazilian president who's been suspended, Dilma Rousseff. The attention now is turning to her former ally, the man who's replaced her.
Michel Temer, of course, interim leader of Brazil right now, he came under immediate criticism when he presented his cabinet, which was very male and very white, of course, lacking a little bit of diversity, people said, in a country where over half of the population, just about half of the population, define themselves as either mixed race or black. Their excuse was they didn't have time to find women for the other ministries. But joking aside, the reactions on Brazilian social media has been extremely vocal, extremely divided down the centre. But going to the more institutional press and the perhaps more respected figures, we have Joaquim Barbosa here, the former Chief of Justice at the Supreme Court, who tweeted that Brazil must be the laughingstock, and he uses the phrase in English, of the world right now. He gave an interview to the Estado de São Paulo newspaper, which is a liberal, typically right-ish centre-wing paper, and owned by one of Brazil's large media groups, of course, where he says Temer does not have the legitimacy to lead the country. Now, in that interview, he does criticise Dilma Rousseff and her decisions, but he says that from a judicial point of view, the way that she was ousted or displaced from power was perhaps not justifiable, and he has serious fears as to how this is going to affect the country's institutions and potential investment in Brazil in the future. Obviously, on the side of the Workers' Party, there are many politicians very angry at the moment, saying that they will boycott the new government and not recognise this leader. Although Fátima Bezerra, one of the Workers' Party MPs, had time for a joke, saying, well, at least Temer's looking out for minorities. Minorities being white people, men who are slightly in the minority, and extremely rich people who are in the minority in Brazil. Now, other politicians in Brazil are angry about the closure of certain ministries. That is, the Ministry for Human Rights and Racial Equality has been kind of watered down somewhat.
Yeah, because he scaled back the size of the government.
Indeed. And so that's become, human rights has become a second tier kind of ministry under justice, and culture has been pretty much done away with, which has prompted a lot of Brazilian artists to contribute to an open letter. We have musicians Caetano Veloso and Gilberto Gil there calling on the government, calling them out against this decision. Gilberto Gil, who was culture minister under Lula some 10 years ago. Now, in terms of social media, a lot of the anti-Temer reporting is being done by this group, Media Ninja. They are often citizen journalists who came to prominence 3 or 4 years ago during the anti-World Cup protests. They published this news about the closure of certain ministries. They've also published some more light-hearted stuff, inversing the order and progress to become order and regression, or order and here the evangelical group in the parliament, which is a whole other story. But social media's also been doing its job of organising and rallying, and, for example, protests and events on Facebook are getting thousands and thousands and thousands of clicks. Remember that, of course, Brazil, very large population, very young population. It's the third biggest user of Facebook in the world. So social media is key at this time.
Absolutely. And this story is far from over. The nickname of Michel Temer, I don't know if you know it, Mr. 1%. That's the number of people.
Approval.
That's roughly his approval rating.
Yeah.
All right, next we're moving to France, to the Cannes Film Festival, where there's been a small revolution on the red carpet. Would you call it that?
Revolution for women, perhaps, and revolution for those who are a fan of flat shoes, which I can include myself in. Julia Roberts appeared on the red carpet without her shoes on, barefoot.
Oh, my.
I thought it might have been a moment of absent-mindedness. We've all been there. She was actually making a symbolic protest against the festival organisers, who last year did not allow certain women entrance to events if they weren't wearing the right kind of footwear, that is, high heels.
All right, so she kind of took the festival hostage there, because I guess there's nothing they could have done about it.
And I learned that it was Julia Roberts' first time at the Cannes Film Festival, which is surprising for someone of her fame. She was applauded by the Courrier International, who says, if we burned our bras, then why not burn our heels? Because they are very I don't know, they're pretty limiting, aren't they? And maybe the Cannes Film Festival are going to take notice now.
Yeah, I'm sure, to be honest, I'm sure the heels are not the easiest thing in which to walk up those red stairs. All right, staying in France, it's the end of an era for Paris Saint-Germain Football Club. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is leaving.
Yes, and my colleagues from the sports desk can definitely tell you what that means for football, but I can tell you that on the internet, it was away he left with this tweet saying that he came like a king and left like a legend.
Humble, as always.
Modesty there, which people, of course, took for lots of mockery on French social media, saying, I came without the Champions League's cup and I left without it too. I came with a melon-sized head and I left with a watermelon-sized head. So Zlatan, of course, the man who said it's not worth watching the World Cup if I'm not playing in it last time.
All right, well, he's entertaining. Gotta give him that. All right, Olivia Salazar-Winspear with Media Watch. Thank you very much.